Alright, so it's been a while, isn't it? So, for those of y'all who are unaware, I am or I was Unknown Elephant. When I was a teenager from 2016 through 18, I used to make a bunch of stupid reviews and I did like a bunch of reactions of current events that have been going on in the world. And I've been revisiting some of my old videos and I thought to myself, damn, some of them were cringe. Like, very, very cringe. And I guess that's one of the main reasons why some of the reviews are no longer up on YouTube. So I decided to do a look back on some of my older videos and see if some of my opinions have changed, which most of these videos are damn near a decade old, so obviously some opinions have changed. Now, the reason why I left YouTube was honestly because of life. Like, I wanted to move on from this channel, and I felt like, I was kind of growing out of it at some point. Like, I thought to myself, if I were to die today, I don't want my legacy to be that weird little teenager who made reviews of crappy cartoons and movies and didn't really do much with his life. Plus, I didn't even have many subscribers, so I thought to myself, what was even the point of going on? Plus, you gotta remember, I was a young teenager back then, so a lot of the stuff I used to review, I kind of grew out of it, and it just accumulated with me leaving YouTube for good. So I kind of came back to do a little bit of a retrospective on some of my old reviews to see how, things have changed and all that type of stuff. So with this video, I'm going to be going back to my most popular video to date, which was the history of 4Kids. It had over 10,000 views, and I think it's probably the only video I ever had that reached 10,000 views, which, looking back, was a major milestone. Also, I want to clarify that this video came out in early 2017, and YouTube was a completely different place back then, so don't be surprised if there's a lot of cussing and all types of crazy shit that's going on in the video. Anyways, yeah, so let's begin.
Man, I'm bored. I don't even know what to do. And I don't feel like doing another Unknown review for a while.
Yeah, I was a bit cocky back then.
I have an idea. Let's do a history video.
Go
Cheap editing at its very finest. Oh wait, I lost access to iMovie years and years ago.
Damn, dude, I'm just coming up with ideas. What else do you want me to do for a bit? Most of my subscribers anyways are just retarded as hell.
Okay, I had no idea I insulted my viewers like that. I am so sorry.
But I guess I'll try to do something fun for once. It's not like one of my subscribers actually requested me a company that's so horrible, it is literally impossible to do a review of one of their shows.
It was true. This was a request from a close friend I had who watched my YouTube videos at the time. And don't worry, unlike the rest of my subscribers, he wasn't retarded.
Oh no. Wait a minute! Ah! Anything but 4Kids, I swear to God! Oh well, it's okay. I could still talk about them. Really, it could be a million times worse at this point. Well, except the fact I'm talking about one of the worst TV companies of the last decade. It's still painful. Let's just get this over with so I can go back to my personal life. So to all the weeaboos and otakus out there, get ready to get your history books out. We're going to be talking about 4Kids. Now before we can talk about the history, let me talk about my history of 4Kids. Unlike Nickelodeon and Cartoon Network, I never grew up with 4Kids. In fact, I didn't even grow up with anime for that matter. Now admittedly, I did watch their block on CW occasionally, but that's only when I'm incredibly bored, that's it.
I deadass almost forgot 4Kids had a Saturday morning block. A couple of them, actually.
So yeah, before they filed for bankruptcy, I was never really into 4Kids. But I've heard the controversy, which is a big topic we're gonna talk about. Enough with the chit-chat, let's get this started. 4Kids was founded somewhere around 1970. Yes, I said it. 1970. The company was not even popular up until the late 90s and 2000s. But at first, they never did shitty dubs of anime. It wasn't until one crisping Saturday morning in 1998. That morning, everything changed.
I wanna be the very
They're the ones who created the English dub for Pokemon. Well, for the early episodes, yeah, we'll talk about what happened to Pokemon and 4Kids later.
Okay, I'm gonna trigger a lot of Gen Zers when I say this, but I wasn't a fan of Pokemon at all growing up. I did not like the anime. I never really played the games. The anime was literally the same thing every episode. It was so repetitive, and the fact that it lasted 25 years is really beyond me. I get it, it was a kid show, but come on, add something new to the story, add something new to the formula, do something. I give this show credit for being the main reason why anime is huge in America, but there are other animes around that time that did that job before Pokemon did.
So, despite of all that, Pokemon was considered the biggest Saturday morning cartoon at the time. And it not only made money for Nintendo, but also for kids. The anime, for what I've researched, is still running to this day. Wait, what? It's still running after 20 years?
Pokemon just ended a little while ago. I just did research on this.
Really? Jesus Christ! I just don't get what's popular for kids anymore. They probably had better taste than I did when I was a kid. Never mind. But since this is a dub by 4Kids, censorship went up by the roof. Obviously they have to cut out the sex and violence and shit, hence the name of their company, 4Kids. But the big controversy about this is that they even censor something like rice balls. They shown that into an episode where they called them jelly donuts.
I know editing is necessary when it comes to dubbing shows, especially when the kids from that certain country is accustomed to different standards and practices, but even to this very day, I still find this very stupid.
Really? Really? You have to replace something as simple like Japanese culture with something more American. Yeah, that totally makes sense. Rice balls would definitely rot the average American child's brain. Yeah, for all the parents out there that can afford rice balls and has some laying around the house, throw them in the trash, cause we do not want our children to see them. Seriously, it's like censoring something like hot dogs on Japanese television. Now, it sounds like I'm ranting on about this, but it's one of many examples that 4Kids censor Japanese products, and anime fans just go crazy over it. Despite of all that censorship bullshit, Pokemon still remains as one of the biggest animes of all time, and it's the anime that truly put 4Kids on the map. Pokemon was so popular that 4Kids decided to go the extra step by dubbing more anime. The first result was dubbing Yu-Gi-Oh! In 2001. Now, when Yu-Gi-Oh! Came out, it was a big success, but it wasn't as big as Pokemon, and I wouldn't blame them at all. I never got into Yu-Gi-Oh! Even when I was a kid. It's basically Pokemon but with trading cards. But it lived its own legacy.
Same shit with Yu-Gi-Oh! As Pokemon. I was never into it as a kid, and I every time it was on the TV, I just kind of turned the channel away. I did made the mistake of calling it Pokemon but with trading cards, but no, just no, this definitely wasn't a ripoff of Pokemon. I've seen other shows try their absolute hardest to be like Pokemon, like Bakugan and Beyblade. Yu-Gi-Oh! Is not one of them. It's its own show.
The show had a long run, much like Pokemon, but unlike Pokemon, I don't know if the show is still running or cancelled. So yeah, they have two very successful shows. What's next? Oh yes, a Saturday morning block for Fox. But it's also where 4Kids officially went downhill. In 2003, Fox needed a way to get rid of their other Saturday morning block, Fox Kids. 4Kids stepped into the job, and as a result, the Fox Box was born. At first, the Fox Box was known for acquiring random cartoons like the 2003 Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles and Winx Club, but they started acquiring anime later on that year. And now, we're hitting the juice. First one was Kirby Right Back At Ya, which I've heard some mixed things about. I haven't seen any of the show, so I won't talk about it, but at least it managed to stay out of controversy.
I've seen one episode of Kirby Right Back At You in recent years, and in my opinion, it's very, very mid. It felt like less of an anime and more so of a show meant for toddlers, the shit that you would see on Nick Jr. or PBS Kids more than something you would see on 4Kids. Again, I'm not really complaining. I think that was the creator's intent, And you know, honestly, there's nothing much else I can say on the show. It was definitely not worth me talking about.
The second anime that they acquired that's based on a video game is Sonic X. And boy oh boy was this anime in trouble ever since they first started airing it.
I know a lot of people that got pissed off over my opinions of Sonic X, so let's just listen to what 2017 Unknown Elephant has to say about the show, cause it's quite a fucking handful.
They heavily edited the shit out of this show, so much so, it's just disgusting watching it. I mean, just look at it! Why is this kid holding a sign with no text on it? But it's not the show's only big problem. Oh no, the voice acting sucks!
Yeah, the voice acting was pretty mediocre in Sonic X, but I guess it was good enough for Sega to allow them to come back and play the roles of the characters in future games.
Really badly! But what makes it more shitty is that they didn't really have to make it shitty. Originally they wanted the voice actors for the Sonic Adventure games to voice the characters, and you know what? They've actually agreed to do it! But 4Kids at the last second changed their minds and decided to replace them with their in-house voice actors. And not only that, the voice acting is just annoying and forgettable. Speaking of annoying and forgettable, let's talk about the characters. The characters in the games have the same personalities as they always do. When I mean that, I'm talking about shitty personalities, unless if you're Sonic, Tails, or Knuckles, or Dr. Robotnik.
To a certain extent, I kind of still agree that, you know, the characters of Sonic X were watered down in comparison to their gaming counterparts. And I know a lot of people who were pissed off at the time that the characters changed not only in the anime, but also in the games for good. Which, yeah, it kind of does suck, but at the same time, man, you know, it is what it is.
They're also annoying. And the newer characters that they introduced in the show, like Cosmo the plant thing, whatever, who's portrayed as Tails' girlfriend, is one-dimensional. And there's Chris Thorndike.
Alright, this punk-ass little jit was probably the main reason why Sonic X got a lot of hate in the early 2000s, which, if you were around the internet during that time period, if not a little bit later, you know, this is exactly the response you would get from many Sonic fans. Chris Thorndike is very annoying and he's overused.
You know, I wouldn't mind him, but he gets so much screen time. He gets more screen time than Sonic, aka the title character. Why in the living fuck would you give more screen time to a supporting character rather than the actual main character? It's just misleading, especially since the show is called Sonic X. Enough with the bullshit. Because of these reasons, it's been widely known that Sonic X is the worst Sonic cartoon.
Okay, the worst Sonic cartoon was way too much of a stretch. Like, if I were to review more shows after 2018, Sonic Underground would definitely be a show where I would be driven to literal insanity by. I was way too harsh on Sonic X looking back. I actually did like the show as a kid, mostly because I was a huge fan of the Sonic games growing up, but I grew out of Sonic the Hedgehog, and in turn, the anime in my opinion really didn't age too well, but it's not as bad as I remembered it being. Like, it really isn't.
The following year, 4Kids hit new lows when they decided to dub One Piece. Honestly, it's way too odd for them to air a show like this. Because unlike the other shows, this one is not even intended for kids. So, the fact that 4Kids decided to dub One Piece even though it's not meant for their target audience is beyond me. Well, they did, and guess what? They flanderized everything the Japanese version does. The way 4Kids treated the show is horrible. But despite of all the shitty things 4Kids had dubbed, they didn't really have the option to.
I'm gonna piss off a lot of people who watched the original video who thought that, you know, I was this fucking amazing scholar who knew his history, but I've actually never seen One Piece at all. Not a single episode. I didn't read the manga or anything. I just thought, you know, this is a part of 4Kids history. This was widely panned by One Piece fans everywhere. I thought I would include it in the video. Anyone who has their pitchforks out already, I really do apologize. I really do. Again, being young and dumb does a lot of things to you. Some things you'll look back in 6 or 7 years and you look back and be like, yeah, I shouldn't have done that.
Really? For some reason, the show came in a package along with many other animes, and apparently 4Kids decides to stick with it from there. They edited or they just downright removed scenes that are somehow important for the story. They toyed around with the violence and the sex scenes a lot more than they do with any dub.
Man, of course the sex scenes and the violence was going to be edited or just outright cut. Now, 4Kids did take it way too far when it comes to some of their dubs, but like, when you consider that this show wasn't intended for kids, you gotta remember, you know, if I'm gonna make a dub for kids, you know, we need to edit some of this stuff.
They even changed the characters' names. Like,
now, I'm not even an anime fan, and that does piss me off. Like, imagine watching a show from a foreign country, and all of a sudden, they just changed the name just to Americanize it. It's definitely stupid, I agree.
why would you do that? At this point, you're just pushing it. You're just pushing just to get hate. I could care less if you replace rice balls with jelly donuts in Pokemon. I could care less if you completely Americanize Sonic X, but if you change just something as simple as the characters' names, I'm sorry, you just need to quit. I'm sorry, you just need to file for bankruptcy now. It literally just sounds like that 4Kids doesn't even know what they're doing at this point. That is just downright retarded! Because of the reasons I gave out, their dub of One Piece is their most controversial dub ever. And because of that, it made 4Kids one of the worst TV companies in the last decade. Even the company who owns One Piece, Toei Animation, does not approve of 4Kids' bullshit. As a result, they lost the rights to One Piece in 2007. And to be honest, it's probably for the best for the company's image. I mean, at least they didn't get the rights to Soul Eater. And throughout the majority of 2006 and 2007, 4Kids decided to air more shows on the Fox Box to make sure if one of them becomes a hit like Pokemon. Shows include Magical Do-Re-Mi,
Never seen a single episode of that one.
Mew Mew Power.
I thought it was way too girly growing up, so I was never a fan of that one. I'd never seen an episode of it.
Dinosaur King.
I should have talked more about Dinosaur King in this video. Like, I have no idea why I didn't. Like, that show was horrible. Even when I was a kid, I hated it. Just absolutely bad show.
Viva Pinata. Ew! In May of 2008, the CW for Kids was born. They decided to step in for CW because they were about to replace the deeply missed Kids WB. First couple of years of the block's existence, they mostly just air reruns of canceled 4Kids shows, and yeah, they're clearly out of ideas for this one. The closest thing that 4Kids have actually done for this block is create a few Yu-Gi-Oh spin-offs, and they were huge flops.
Again, this was another thing I should have brought up. I should have brung up the Yu-Gi-Oh spin-offs a lot more, but I didn't.
It wasn't until 2010 where 4Kids finally say, you know what, fuck airing reruns of cancelled shows. Let's make one more anime dub. Let's make a dub of Dragon Ball Z. Not only that, let's put the word Kai after the Z. And then, let's make more pointless edits to the show. We're invincible!
Okay, don't take 2017 UnknownElephant's opinion seriously when it comes to this one. The truth was, I was a huge fan of Dragon Ball Z Kai growing up. Like, I remember watching this on Nicktoons Network anytime I could. Like, I seriously loved this show growing up. This was my first major exposure to Dragon Ball, and just so much nostalgia gushes every single time I watched this show. I stupidly called this one a dub, which wasn't. All they did was hire Sean Schemmel, the voice of Goku, to re-edit some lines just so they can fit it onto their Saturday morning block.
Especially for an anime, Dragon Ball Z is one of my favorite cartoons. So, when Kai first came out, it received the most controversy since the One Piece dub. It not only aired on the CW, but also Nicktoons Network. Yeah, can you imagine Nickelodeon doing something like this? Neither do I. So, anyways, I remember seeing not only the 4Kids, but also the Nicktoons version of Dragon Ball Z Kai get a lot of hate.
Nope, it was just the 4Kids airing that did that. The truth be told, the Nicktoons Network version of Dragon Ball Z Kai was a lot more gruesome than I remember it being. Like, it was fucking crazy how they got away with so much. Plus, they aired the movies, which, that alone was gruesome. Plus, they aired Ren and Snippy reruns on top of Dragon Ball Z Kai. It would make perfect sense. It's like an edginess overload.
They had to do tons of edits on the voiceovers. They fucking censored as something as simple like the human anatomy.
There's no way in hell I was complaining about Mr. Popo's skin color.
These motherfuckers are censoring a black guy! Are you kidding me? Okay, that's not even censoring things anymore. That's just being downright racist.
You know, I sometimes imagine how people would react if I were to say that shit in public. I mean, it wouldn't be pretty.
Most of the blood has been taken out. They literally made the violence of the show boring. How? This is Dragon Ball Z we're talking about. At this point, I sort of expect that type of violence to appear on that show. So yeah, 4Kids really fucked over with Dragon Ball Z. But there's some moments that made me laugh. And when I mean I laugh at the show, it means I'm laughing at the failures 4Kids made to the show. Even the promotions 4Kids did on the show is hilarious. For example, this little promo.
Goku's gotta get his boy back, but he knows he can't beat Raditz on his own. That's when Goku's old enemy Piccolo shows up. Now Piccolo's a Saiyan just like Raditz.
Now that's like calling Vegeta a Namekian.
Did you just heard them? It's like me saying, oh, Eminem's a lifeguard just like Yoshi. I mean, they're fucked. They're really fucked. And people just wish for them just to file for bankruptcy. But the most magical year of all time happened. 2011. On March of that year, 4Kids was sued by TV Tokyo because of the mistreatment of the Yu-Gi-Oh franchise. Which was funny because Yu-Gi-Oh was their only source of success. So, apparently 4Kids, Funimation, and Majesco Entertainment entered into an illegal agreement regarding the Yu-Gi-Oh franchise. TV Tokyo says that those agreements allow 4Kids to collect royalties without paying a portion to those of TV Tokyo. Which means 4Kids is screwing the agreement with TV Tokyo in the ass. So, TV Tokyo terminated the Yu-Gi-Oh license from 4Kids. And as a result, they were in court for months. 4Kids had to file Chapter 11 bankruptcy protection. And after that lawsuit was over, oh boy, 4Kids was ready to die. It didn't matter that they had the Yu-Gi-Oh franchise or not, they still have to sell all their products just so they can pay back the dues.
This was the moment where 4Kids officially die, and the moment anime fans rejoiced and danced on 4Kids' grave. Meaning, no more shitty dubs of One Piece or Pokemon.
In June of 2012, 4Kids sold all of their properties. All their products except for Yu-Gi-Oh were sold to Saban Productions. Yu-Gi-Oh was sold to 4K Acquisition Group, which I don't even know what the heck that company is.
Correction, 4K Acquisition Group was actually 4Kids, so they never really lost the rights to Yu-Gi-Oh like that.
And after that, 4Kids started to crumble big time. A lot of people left the company and they lost all their properties, including their Saturday morning block on the CW. And in December of that year, 4Kids got out of Chapter 11 protection. But unfortunately, there's still hope left. They rebranded themselves into 4 Licensing Entertainment. So yes, currently they're not bankrupt. They're just remaining as an underdog, trying to stay out of trouble. And honestly, it's best for them just to stick with that path. I mean, I've heard a bit of rumors that 4Kids might be coming back and officially changing themselves. If so, all I could say is, good luck. Despite not being in the mainstream media for years, 4Kids is still widely hated. I mean, just one little fuck up, everyone would just go insane and beat the living crap out of them.
Well, as it turned out, 4K Acquisition Group went under, and 4Kids never made the big comeback that people were rumoring about. It was around the time the video came out, so of course I wasn't really able to cover that.
But those are just rumors. I doubt they would actually come back. So yeah, that was the history of 4Kids.
Okay, so that was basically the end of the video. The rest of the video was just me rambling on about stuff, and yeah, that's it. So, this video is still cringe, but it definitely is worth the nostalgic look back. Like, it did take me back to a simpler time where I really didn't have to worry about much except me going in front of a microphone and ranting about stupid stuff. And I was very impressed that this video reached over 10,000 views, and it happened so soon within the channel's lifespan. This was something I could have capitalized on, but unfortunately, I just didn't do so. If I have time, I think I might look back at some of the other older videos I did. Maybe I might get into a few reviews and a few reactions, but for the time being, it was nice knowing y'all, and see you later. So, as we continue this look back on my older videos, I decided to look back on my review of Legends of Chamberlain Heights. When the show first came out in 2016, I thought it was trash, but the older I grew, the more I really started to appreciate it. So I made a remake of the review a little bit after, but like even then, I still didn't get the full gist of the show. This was my most disliked video to date, which before I deleted it, it was basically at like what? 10 dislikes. A lot of it was because it was just a bunch of angry NPCs who are just huge fans of the show. But even with all the angry fanboys who are complaining in the comments section, there was a part of me that said to myself, you know what, I should probably give this show a second chance, because like, this is a show that's basically like a mixture between the Boondocks and South Park when it comes to their humor, so not everything that will fly will automatically fly to my head. So anyways, let's just get to this piece of crap video because like, I personally hated this video looking back, and yeah, let's just fucking begin.
When South Park first came out in 1997, it soon became one of the most influential cartoons of all time. Because of that, you see a bunch of cartoons trying to rip off its brand of humor. Some work.
Now, Drawn Together was a failure. It wasn't a success at all. Those who remember the direct-to-DVD movie the show had would tell you it was a massive failure.
But others, no. Hell no.
Yeah, Brickleberry also sucked, but it's more so like Family Guy than it was South Park.
In September, a Comedy Central show emerged from production. That little show is called Legends of Chamberlain Heights. And since its release, it's been often regarded as one of the worst Comedy Central shows. I haven't really seen the show, so I guess I'll check it out. Wow. I have watched 9 episodes of this thing, and let me tell you, these moments were so painfully uncomfortable, I think I finally realized what rape is. The whole show feels like rape. The jokes, the writing, the characters, all of it is nearly bad.
Okay, this scene is just fucking hilarious. Basically, the Chamberlain Heights trio is going to a Clippers game, and the scoreboard says LeBron, meaning the Cavaliers, just LeBron James, versus the non-Los Angeles Lakers. Like, these visual gags are genius. I don't care what my old self say. Like, those who watched basketball in 2016 could probably get those references really easily, and it's pretty funny.
But what's the premise of this bitch? Well, it's about these 3 little freshmen, Grover, Jamal, and Milk, and they get in some crazy shenanigans. Yeah, it's pretty simple as it is. Alright, the simplicity of the premise is chill. I forgive that. But the big problem is that the writing of this show is just like South Park's.
One of the show's few flaws, which I still stand by to this day, is that yes, some of the plot lines do rip off South Park in some way. Though, it's not a complete rip-off, but still, seeing how Comedy Central was trying their absolute hardest to mirror the success of South Park, you can exactly see what they're doing. And it really failed because Comedy Central is now on its deathbed. I mean, cable's dying everywhere, but like, Comedy Central, if you haven't fucked over shows like Key and Peele and Chappelle Show and aired non-stop reruns of South Park all day, you wouldn't be struggling as much as what every other cable channel's going through right now, just saying.
Now, before you go in the comments section and be like,
I don't know, then you're just judging the show because it's like South Park. The show is supposed to be like South Park in every way. The next time you judge a show for what it is, go kill yourself!
I'ma cut the scene short because I said a certain F word that nowadays I would probably get my ass kicked for.
I know I said earlier that there have been several shows that are just like South Park that came and went, but I'm sorry, this show is so similar to South Park in many ways. Hell, even the animation strikes a resemblance to South Park, which I'm gonna talk about later. I'll give you a few episode plots to prove it. An episode
where the class is getting taught about parenthood, they're getting paired up with chicks just so they can get an A on this assignment. But for a little basketball game, Grover left his baby robot with his irresponsible older brother, and his baby's all fucked up now. Kinda reminds me where Stan is paired up with a chick for a class assignment, and he does irresponsible shit with the egg. But to be fair, the only difference about it is that Stan is doing irresponsible crap because he thought Kyle was hitting on Wendy or something like that. Wendy is Stan's girlfriend. There's another episode where most of the town's Wi-Fi goes out, and since Grover's little brother's treehouse is the only place that has Wi-Fi, people go on his little laptop and do some shit. Say, that little plot element does not rip off the episode where Stan's family has to move out to California because the Wi-Fi in the entire country is gone. Apparently California has the tiniest bit of Wi-Fi, and tons of people have to use that tiny little computer for at least a few seconds. You know, kind of like this episode. The problem here sort of speaks for itself. The story
are sort of unoriginal in a way. They rely on plot elements from other TV shows just to make them stand out.
Other TV shows? I mean, outside of South Park, there really isn't much this show kind of ripped off. Like, unless if you want to bring up other satirical adult shows like Family Guy, The Simpsons, or The Boondocks, be my guest.
Now let's talk about the animation. It's like a South Park wannabe. Okay. Honestly, it's not really the show's worst problem. I could care less about the animation on the show. The only problem is, it's 10 times more stiff than South Park would ever be. The characters move at like 1 frame per second.
Again, there's no actual point to me ripping on the fact that the animation is like 1 frame per second because South Park is literally almost the same thing. I even brought up that even the older episodes act in some way and how the newer episodes advanced in technology and all that shit, but like, it's still no excuse. It's still paper cutout animation. They're similar animation styles.
Yeah, I know earlier South Park episodes share the same trait, but look what they do nowadays. With the correct knowledge and technology, they can animate whatever they want, and, no joke, they make 1 episode in 7 days.
Also, you gotta consider that South Park more than likely had a higher budget than this show ever did in its entire lifespan. When you consider the fact that the show first aired in '97, became a huge hit and had all that money stacked up, and the fact that it's Comedy Central's Golden Boy, so I don't understand what I was complaining about here, honestly.
Any other show could take like 6 to 9 months to animate, yet this show looks like it's been animated less than 2 days. And less talking about the ugly character designs, the better.
Again, with the South Park comparisons, there were a lot of instances where characters just looked downright ugly and disgusting in some moments. This isn't really the fault of Chamberlain Heights. It's just a cartoon thing.
Let's talk about the humor, if you can call it humor. It feels like that they were drunk one day and they decided to laugh at a picture of Kobe Bryant. What I mean is that there's so many references of celebrities and basketball players, I couldn't even count. Yet despite all this madness, they're just random as fuck. Plus, if you're not interested in basketball, chances are you're not really gonna get the references in the show. You'll be scratching your head like, what the fuck?
Again, looking back, I really appreciate the visual humor the show's trying to pull off. Like, some of these jokes, I understand if you're not into this type of stuff. Like, it is for a specific demographic, and it really is so. Like, there are a lot of references to basketball and hip-hop only people who are fans of those things would really know. And I really do appreciate it. And the humor later on became a little more complex than just basketball and hip-hop humor, because in Season 2, they delve right into a lot of social topics, and this is what I covered in the remake of the review, which I might do in the future as well.
Now let's talk about everyone's favorite part, the characters! Yay! Fuck no! First, there's Grover, who is one-dimensional. There's Jamal, the fat dude, who literally sounds like the Hog Rider off of Clash Royale. Then there's Milk, the generic stereotype of the white kid trying to be black. And
the main characters aren't 100% interesting, they all have their problems, but like, it's always fun watching them get into stupid shenanigans every episode.
now let's talk about the supporting characters, cause I want you to suffer with me. We got the generic bully character, the generic chick that the main character always tries to hit on, Grover's idiot older brother, Grover's idiot younger brother.
These two were low-key some of the best characters in the show, no cap. They come off as stereotypes sometimes, but as Season 2 rolls by, you really get into those characters and what their personalities are.
There's Milk's parents and...
I'ma stop this scene too, because this is so cringe, I low-key almost wanted to hurt myself. Like deadass, I was almost this close to hurting myself. So, this was originally supposed to be a running gag for this channel, where the character of Unknown Elephant is oogling over random women that he sees in animated shows and movies, which that was later implemented in the Loud House review, which I've done next, but I quickly stopped it. Like, it was just so cringe, even back then. I mean, I was 14 years old, and at this point, I really didn't know what I was doing for this YouTube channel.
Just playing. Her character, I assume, is that she's just addicted to happy pills. That's really about it.
I think this character is a reference to the opioid epidemic, which, if that's so, that's very sad.
And there's this character.
Ladies and gentlemen, the scene you're gonna witness has changed the course of animation history as we know it. This gave me goosebumps while watching this. Like, I'm telling you, this is the introduction of a legendary character.
One class, man. We don't have to spend 24 hours together.
Shut your ass up, wifey. I made eggs. You want patties, links, or sausage?
I should probably just get home.
Then it's links, nigga.
I'm being legit right now. This character embodies so much what the world is. He is my idol. Let's give this character a round of applause, everyone. A round of applause. Yay! This show gets a 10 out of 10. Enough said. Bye!
That's all, folks.
Do you think I would actually fool you guys to believe that Legends of Chamberlain Heights is the best show ever?
God damn it, it's still on!
No. Most, if not all, the characters in the show are just downright horrible. And don't get me started on the voice acting because, whew, it's really shitty.
I actually do like the voice acting of the show, except Grover, because he kinda sounds like this, G. Plus, I recognize a lot of these voice actors, and they do a really good job portraying the characters they're supposed to voice.
Seriously sounds like they put no effort into the voicing the characters whatsoever. It's so bad, I thought they didn't even put emotion into this. It really sounds like that the voice actors are trying to get themselves fired so badly. So yeah, that was Chamberlain Heights for you guys. Because of that, the show failed to reach an audience. And I will have a prediction that this show will get cancelled soon. Yeah, it was picked up for a second season, but come on, is anyone gonna believe that this show will get picked up for a third one? No.
Realistically, this show was not going to get a third season. Ratings were very low due to the fact that this show came out during the beginning of the downfall of cable, and critics panned this show pretty damn hard when it came out. But I feel like Comedy Central didn't give the show a proper chance. Like, if they were to have a line of original animated programming outside of South Park and have that becoming its second flagship show, Comedy Central would probably be in a better place right now. But no.
So yeah, that was Legends of Chamberlain Heights. It sucks pretty bad. It's sort of tough giving the show a rating, but I guess the show would get a 3.5 out of 10. That's all I could say here. So, this is Unknown Elephant, and see you later, guys.
So, that was the end of that. Like, even back in the day, I knew this video was kind of shitty, and as a result, I did make a remake of this video. But even the remake doesn't really match my true feelings on the show nowadays, and I'll probably do a revisit on that video soon. So, I'm gonna make this clear with my modern thoughts on the show. Legends of Chamberlain Heights is still not a perfect show. Like, it has its flaws. The storylines do rip off South Park here and there, which is a little bit irritating, but like, it doesn't come to the point where it's a full-fledged rip-off of it, and the humor is not as clever as South Park. But this show definitely has funny humor on its own. The show also has a pretty colorful cast. While they're not 100% perfect and some of them are bland, they're still good characters nonetheless. I felt like this show, in the right hands, had a lot of potentials to become a big hit, but unfortunately it didn't, and Comedy Central prematurely canceled the show, which, it sucks, but at the same time, it's still a good show. If I were to give this show a rating, it would probably be a 7 out of 10, maybe a 7.5. So yeah, that was my look back on this particular weird little video, and I'll do more in the future. So yeah, I'll see y'all later.